Have you ever wanted something so bad that you would do anything for it?
Have you ever had a dream that you had?
I have. When I was a kid, I wanted to be Robert Rodriguez, George Lucas. I wanted to be a filmmaker, and the only thing holding me back was the whole not having a camera thing. I spent the entire summer from the age of 13 to 14 in the Indiana heat picking green beans by hand for my grandfather. He paid me $5 per hour, and by the end of the summer, I had enough money saved up to purchase this. This was my Sony Handycam camcorder. It's a digital Hi8 camcorder, and I used this for everything throughout my teenage years. I can still hear the beeps, the boops, the clicks, the whines it would make when you would load a tape into the deck. But this isn't the camera that I really wanted. This is the camera that I really wanted, the Canon XL-2. You may recognize this as Freddie Benson's camera from iCard.
What do you think of my equipment?
You'd be wrong. Freddie's camera was an XL1 and this is an XL2. It's got some notable upgrades from the XL1, and that had me thinking, is this a camera that I could use for a paid project in 2024? But are the hoops that you have to jump through to use a outdated piece of technology like this in 2024 worth it? That's what we're going to find out today. The Canon XL-2 debuted in August of 2004, 20 years ago. It is a 3 CCD image sensor system. It was a successor to the XL1 and XL1s. This camera unlocked true 16:9 widescreen and true 24p recording. The true 24p combined with the XL2 cinema look made this camera a must-have for indie filmmakers. For myself at the time, this camera at the price tag of $4,000 was very much out of reach with my $5 per hour bean picking job. But here we are 20 years later, and I was able to purchase this camera from a junkyard for just $20. Now, if we're going to use this camera in 2024 for a paid project, we obviously need to put it to the test on a spec piece. So we're going to film a spec video with the Canon XL2. We're going to see what kind of challenges arise, what kind of hurdles do we have to jump over in order to make a well-polished video with the Canon XL2 in 2024. The first thing that I'm a little bit nervous about is the media format that this camera captures to. This is a miniDV camcorder, so it captures to digital tape, which by all intents and purposes is an analog format. So it's a one-to-one copy when you're transferring from the camcorder to the computer. So if you have an hour of video, it's going to take you an hour to copy. This will take a little bit of getting used to. Typically, when I'm using my Red Komodo to film projects, a 512 gigabyte card will take about 20 minutes to copy. And I have a very beefy computer. We're getting ready to film our spec video with the Canon XL2, and obviously we need to build it out in a way that better suits us in the modern era. As I'm looking at the camera to build it out for the first time, I'm noticing some things that feel very familiar and would feel very familiar for any Canon user. So one of the things that I think many Canon users out there would find very familiar about this camera is the mode dial. So if you look on the side of the camera here, this is where you power on your camera, or you put it into different modes, such as like playback for TV. You would roll over to the VCR mode, and that's going to allow you to play back the video. If you jog back the other direction, you have A, TV, AV, manual, a variety of modes. Now obviously we'll be filming in manual because we're not amateurs. The very nice things about this camera is it actually has an EVF, an electronic viewfinder. And if you take a look at this, you would see that it's a very clear viewfinder, and then through the eyepiece, I mean, it's a great experience. The only downside to something like this is that it's very independent. The operator can see what's going on, but the client can't. So if we look at the other side of the camera here, we'll notice that we have an S-video port, we have an SDI port with a BNC connector, and then component out with video and audio. One of the challenges that we have run into is that while it does have an SDI connector here, this does not cooperate with our state-of-the-art current monitors. They'll connect, but you're not able to see any image. We began to look at a workaround for this. So as a workaround, we picked up this connector from Micro Center. This is TTX Tech AV to HDMI. So what this converter does is taking component in to 480 signal and then upscaling that to HDMI and outputting that. So we got these short component cables. One's got a right angle side, one's just a standard. And we're gonna use these to make our setup more compact. We're gonna go out of the component here, okay? Then we're gonna take our converter box and we're gonna go in to the yellow. Like that. And we have our HDMI cable, and then that goes out of here. The last thing we need to add is power, and this works off of a micro USB cable. Okay? The first time I did this, I went through. I was like, I'm still not getting a picture. This is the worst. What we'll do is we'll use one of our Nano V98 core batteries, and we'll just plug this USB into here. Right? I know what you're thinking. It looks like I have a signal. I'm getting a blue screen. What's going on? Denver, I did everything you asked. Took the yellow cable, plugged it into the converter, HDMI to the monitor. I still have a picture. I went through the exact same thing. You see, there's actually a switch inside here. And this allows you to switch from which output you're using. So you're going to switch from your SDI to your video out. So if we flip the switch, we now have picture. This is pretty great, you know, but the setup is not looking very tidy. We want to make our setup as compact as possible. So we actually have this. This is a back plate adding accessories onto the XL-2. These just screw right into the shoulder pad. We're going to use our typical monitor, the small HD ND7, and we're just going to slide that onto this cold shoe. We've got that nice and tight. We have an articulating monitor on top of our camera. We have our video signal converter, and in order to get this onto our plate in a way that is compact, we're going to affix some Velcro to the converter. I'm thinking that the best place to attach this is likely going to be right about here. We have some extra space. There, and boom. Nice and snug. Again, we have our right angle component cable. It's going to come out here and then in to the converter. And out of the converter, we have a hyper thin HDMI cable here. And we'll tidy all this up later. This is going to come up to our monitor. And we're going to go to the HDMI in. We're going to add one of these Velcro strips to the top of our camera so that we can keep the cables tidy. Next, we have our V-Lock battery. Unfortunately, we don't have the proper V-Lock mount here for the battery. We did purchase a cold V-Lock mount to attempt to fix this to the camera. Unfortunately, that wasn't working out too well. I did think of an alternate solution where we could fix the battery to the bottom plate here, but I think the best method is going to be trusty bongo tie. We're going to run this bongo tie right through this hole up here. We're going to pull it around, and this is nice and taut. It's not going anywhere. Now we have our battery. On our battery plate, we have our video signal converter back here. One of the nice things about these Nano V98 batteries from Core is they have both a USB out and a P-tap out. And since we're trying to power several different accessories here, that's exactly what we need. We're going to take our P-tap, we're going to plug that into the top of the battery, we're going to run that following the same line of these cables over here to power our monitor, right? Wrap this into our cables, and then we're going to take our USB cable over here, come out of the USB, right into here. Now for the moment of truth, put our monitor on. So just like that, we have our battery powering our monitor and our video signal converter, and everything's coming out of the camera here, and we're pretty much ready to go. I have the ability to look through the viewfinder here, and I'm able to get perfect framing here as a solo operator, but then in a situation where I may be operating with a director or a producer and they want to look at the monitor as well, they're able to look at the monitor right here.
Hey, Denver.
What's up?
So I just heard back from Nike, and they can only afford $150,000 for the next commercial. So, oh, what do we got here?
I guess we can do the 150 if that's all they can do. Yeah, so what I've done here is I took the Canon XL-2 and I have added all of these accessories to make it a camera that we could use on a project in 2024.
Okay.
So I added a video signal output converter over here. Picked this up at Micro Center. And this allows us to take a standard def signal, convert it to an HD signal, and then put that into our ND7 monitor. The camera's kind of nice because it does have the electronic viewfinder on here, but that's really only good for one person. And one of the limitations I was running into was that the SDI out was just a standard def out.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to pass that through to one of these monitors because these only accept HD. And then we had another issue of how do we power all these different accessories. I bongo tied a V-Lock battery onto here with the USB out and the P-tap out. P-tap is powering the monitor, USB is powering the video signal converter.
That's really cool, Denver. I like this a lot. It looks professional. You know, I like the way you put this together. Let's go shoot some.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so we're out here now and we're doing some tests to see like how the picture performs. And we've got Cy over here, and he's in a little bit of a dynamically lit situation where he's got some highlights, he's got some shadows. I think this is really gonna give us a good idea of how the camera performs. So if we're looking through the viewfinder right now, you can see that it's completely blown out. Like we can't see a single thing. The nice thing about this lens, the 20x zoom, is that we have a built-in ND. So we're gonna toggle through the ND here and bring that all the way down. Right? If we focus Cy up, we're gonna see if we can adjust the gain down a little bit, recover some of these highlights. And he's still a little bit hot, so we're gonna adjust our aperture. And if Cy looks down with his forehead, just like that, we kind of get those harsh highlights off of his forehead. His face is looking decent, not the best dynamic range coming out of this camera. But if you're a person like me, like you understand how you can take the camera and work its limitations to your advantage. So we'll pull Cy over here. Cy, if you want to come right under this tree here, we've completely repositioned Cy to play to the strengths of the camera. So we understand that it doesn't have the best dynamic range. And that's honestly okay, because now we're in the shadows, we're gonna gain up, and look at this beautiful picture. So we've just completely changed what the image coming out of this camera looks like by playing to its advantages. So the camera actually performs really well in the shadows. This is like a super zoom. And you can kind of see that nice natural bokeh we're getting back there behind Cy when we're zoomed in. And I'm loving the look out of this camera. And as you can kind of tell, this was like one of those cameras that worked really well for this type of like telephoto shot. If we back up, you can imagine this would be almost like a talking head setup, like an on-the-fly interview. Move over here. We can see again, now that we're still in the shade, we're looking off in the distance, you can see the highlights are, you know, pretty blown out. Then if we work back over here, where less of that background is those blown out highlights, we have a much more pleasing image. And it looks relatively sharp. Cool. I've swapped lenses to the 3x wide zoom. Before we had the 20x zoom on there, and with the type of look I'm going for this, which is like an ultra wide in your face type of like commercial, and then like we need this wider lens, especially with compact space like in the bathroom. Cameron, if you kind of want to just sit in already, like we can frame up and see how this looks.
Would you like some privacy?
Can you guys look away for a second?
No, don't actually. You don't actually
Wait,
commit
really?
to the role. No,
Oh,
okay. Commit to the role. You just sit there.
Oh, is this one of the lids that's gonna go in
Mine.
if I sit on it? Oh no, we're fine. Okay. Well, that's a good shot. The little feet.
Yeah, it is a cool shot. That is pretty good. It's usually like this, like toes inward. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, so we're back in the studio. We've shot our spec for dude wipes. And as I mentioned before, it is a one-to-one copy. So to get the footage off of the camera, we have to play it back in real time, connected to the computer through a video capture device. I found this one at Micro Center. This is an Elgato video capture, and it has two different options here. You have your component in, and then you also have an S video in. When I did the test initially, I used the component cables coming out of the video out on the camcorder, but then I saw some things in forums online that suggested that the S video would be a better option for transferring video to the computer. So I also purchased an S video cable to see what this video quality is going to look like when it's captured with an S video cable over the component cables. So now we're going to get this connected and see the results. Just like that. And we're going to go into the S video out on the camcorder like that. We don't want to forget to hit our switch. And so to play our footage back, we'll want to switch to VCR mode, and then we open Elgato Video Capture on our computer. All right, so on the computer, we have our Elgato Video Capture app. When you open it up, this is the screen you see, and we're going to name this Dude Wipes. We'll hit continue. Oh, and switch over to S video, 16:9. Continue. We're gonna open up the top of our camera here. Go to the top here. We're gonna rewind. We hit play. And then we have video playback right here.
Dude, please.
And at first glance, I'm very happy with how this looks. First impressions of the video is like, at this scale, it looks very cinematic. Like, we definitely did a good job lighting the small space that we were in, and I'm very excited to put this together. So I'm gonna finish rewinding the tape here. This is so ridiculous. Okay, so then we'll hit start recording, and then the video starts capturing. We hit play on our camcorder, and boom, there's me. So this was part of the test footage, and we're just gonna, capture one long clip here and then chop that together later. One of the coolest things about capturing video with a camcorder like this is it feels authentic to the times in which it was created. So we have plugins today, even plugins that are built into our editing applications like DaVinci Resolve, that give you like an analog look, but it doesn't feel the same. Like this video, if I was to set dress and stage out the look of the video to feel very like 2000s or late 90s, like this camcorder would capture that look flawlessly. And I think like people that would see things captured with this would have trouble discerning whether or not it was an old video or something captured today. So one of the nice things about modern editing software is you have things like Scene Detect Auto Cut built into applications like Resolve. So we're able to take this lengthy videotape and put it into Resolve, and it will automatically detect the cuts. So the starts and stops of the video, and then it will split those into individual clips. So rather than having a 60-minute tape, we now have 60 different clips. That's just one of the nice things about editing older footage today, is we're able to take advantage of these new technologies, new applications that are better suited for even like working with outdated technology. I'm looking at this review footage right now of Psy, and this looks stunning. Like this is really beautiful. I'm very happy with how this looks, like the sharpness, like the clarity, the bokeh, the skin tones. Like this is impressive. For like 20-year-old technology, like I could shoot something on this. Like I'm very pleased with how this is looking. No matter what the technology is if you know the limitations, you can play to those and you can get the best results. Like you would be hard pressed to like tell me that this was not shot on like an iPhone. I mean, look at this clarity. And I think like it really speaks to like the Canon color science. Like Canon is known for their skin tones and just like making people look flattering. Even with a 20-year-old camera, they're still like knocking it out of the park with excellent color science. Very happy with how this looks. All right, okay, so what we're gonna watch now, guys, is the Dude Wipes commercial.
Okay.
And this is a reminder, this was all shot on the Canon XL-2.
Love that camera.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Full screen. Yeah.
Dude. Dude, please.
Say goodbye to infinite wiping and hello to Dude Wipes.
Dude.
It's a new era of wiping.
Oh my god. That is so funny. The
This
sound
is like-
effects are great. Cameron is in his element.
This is the body. This is a commercial straight out of the 90s.
Yeah,
Right.
It does feel super retro. It feels like one of those commercials, like Tang or something like that back in the day, or like on Nickelodeon or something. You know. What about Cameron? Do you feel like you're shown in the best light here?
I think a little too much man shown here.
In conclusion, this camera, the Canon XL-2, is 100% a camera that I would be happy to jump through the hurdles in order to use in a modern day paid project. The aesthetics that this camera achieves, I feel like we're time traveling with a camera, and that really excites me about this. Rather than like capturing something with like an 8K camera and trying to dumb that down and make that look like analog or digital old video, I would much rather just use the actual camera and get those aesthetics. If you're considering capturing a video that has dated video aesthetics like that come from the XL2, I would highly encourage you to use the Canon XL2, to use a camera like the Canon XL2 to achieve that look rather than using a plugin or a filter inside of your editing software. And if you're interested in more gear reviews just like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. So the narrative for the Dude Wipes is like a guy taking a dump, and like the voiceover goes, "Picture this, it's 1998 and you are pooping. You wipe. It's not clean."